Thank you, everybody, again for joining. Today's guest, I'm very excited about having a nonprofit background and still being extremely active in the community. Very happy to have Dr. Nicole Chandler with the Change Center. Dr. Chandler, how are you doing today?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. She is the executive director at the Change Center, which is literally just right behind my apartment complex. I can hit you all with a stone if I ever needed to. And then also Brent Wall, who is the CEO of the local Big Brothers Big Sisters chapter. Brent, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's good to see you both.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining. Before we started recording, we were kind of talking about a couple of things. Number one is how busy you all are and kind of some of the cool things that both organizations are doing. And we'll get into that in just a second. But we were first discussing when we had an opportunity to meet. And so it's been right in that 2 or 3 year range for both of you all. Dr. Chandler and I met during my time with Cirrus Insight. And at that time, they had not opened the Change Center facility yet. And I remember meeting there at Overcoming Believers Church and hearing about all the cool things that you all were doing. And we were talking about programming and internships. And so we've been able to know each other since then. And then Brent, it was probably about the same time.
Yep.
What year did you start with Big Brothers Big Sisters?
Man, I guess it was 2017.
Yep. So it wasn't
Maybe, yeah, 2017, I think.
wasn't too long after you all started. So I applaud both of you all for what you do. And one other thing before we get into before you all have an opportunity to introduce yourselves formally and talk about what your organization does. What we hope to get out of today is to let the people that are viewing know the importance of the work that you all do, the people's lives that you all positively impact, and how they can get involved in support. Because there are still missions that need to be met, and you all are out there on the front lines every day, fighting for people who it's a little bit tougher for them to fight for themselves and others. So excited to hear from you all today and get some points and tips and some information about how we can support. So with that being said, let you all talk about your background, who you are, what you do, and your organization. Just take a moment to enlighten everyone. And Dr. Chandler, we'll start with you.
Okay, awesome. Well, again, thank you for having me, and good to see you as well, Brent. And I am Dr. Nicole Chandler, the Executive Director for the Change Center in Knoxville, Tennessee. We are a recreation, event, venue, and job training facility. We focus primarily on teens and young adults, but also the surrounding community and other entities of what that serve venues. So we're able for banquets and concerts, private parties and events, corporate events, in addition to recreation that we provide for teens and young adults through roller skating, rock climbing, video games, a movie wall, and concession area. We also do job training. So we hire young people from within the community and give them an opportunity to learn essential soft skills that make them more available. And also they have an opportunity to
And you all have a kind of a unique background there at the Change Center. Can you, for just a second, tell us the history of your organization and how you all came about for anybody that doesn't know?
Absolutely. We started under Mayor Madeline Rogero, former mayor, in 2013. She went to a conference, called Cities United. While she was there, heard some staggering data about disproportionate amount of violence that was happening in other inner city communities. She came back to Knoxville, met with the chief of police at that time, which was David Roush, former Chief Roush. Asked him to run those numbers and to see if they were the same in Knoxville, and of course they were. She then initiated some conversations with youth service providers and other youth serving organizations about what can we do to lessen these numbers that were happening at staggering rates. She also met with some young people that are targeted in that demographic, ages 14 to 24, and asked them some things about what it is that they wanted to do to help lessen the effect of violence that was happening. One of the things that the young people shared was that they wanted to roller skate. And, all the adults in the room were floored at that response. In addition to that, there were 21 additional community meetings that met with different sectors of the community across Knoxville about that were happening in other sectors of the community. Some of the things that came out were families wanted accessible, affordable, family-friendly entertainment. They wanted their young people to be able to work, and the Change Center was created to answer those things. So we provide recreation, job training, and access to affordable, friendly, family-friendly entertainment in a quality facility in the East Knoxville community.
Awesome. All right, Brent, what about you?
Yeah, my name is Brent Waugh. I'm the CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters of East Tennessee. Big Brothers Big Sisters of East Tennessee is an affiliate of the nation's oldest and largest youth mentoring organization. And so we focus on matching youth with a mentor. We have two main programs. One is our community-based program, where mentors and mentees are together a couple times a month for a couple hours each time. And then the other program is our site-based mentoring program, where we ask volunteers to spend an hour each week with their mentee. As you might imagine, and I'm sure we're going to talk about this, much of what we do is predicated on one-to-one time, personal time, in-person time. And so these last few weeks and months have been challenging but fun for our team to think of new ways to provide our services. And so that's been a big focus of ours. And as a side note, the Change Center is amazing. I've loved going there. I know many of the kids we serve utilize it, and I can't wait until we can get back there in big groups again as well. So thanks for having me today.
Awesome. Awesome. So I sent you all some questions that we talked about, and I want to get into those so that we can let people know, how they can help and some of the things that you all are going through right now. So Dr. Chandler, we'll start with you. And the first question is, how have you adapted to still serve your constituents?
So our primary constituents are school-aged kids in the surrounding community. And to still serve them, we are collaborating with other agencies in the school system to provide supplemental meals, school resource packets, and grab-and-go dinners twice a week at no cost to families. In addition, because of the PPP, we have been able to provide our staff, our team staff, with a continued paycheck and giving them some opportunities to still earn money as well.
That's awesome. I think I saw, did you all have maybe a bunny rabbit out there for Easter?
We did. Easter Bunny made a special appearance Easter weekend, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
I saw that on my Facebook feed, and that made me smile. So I'm sure that the young people enjoyed that. So a lot of continued work with the schools. I'm sure they appreciate the effort and the hard work from you all as well.
Yeah, it's been fun. The kids haven't liked that we give out schoolwork, but
I can't blame.
Yeah, look. There's like, this is not what you do. Don't give us.
Brent, what about you? What have you all been able to do to continue to serve your constituents?
Absolutely. Very early on in the pandemic, we as a team decided that it would be best for us to move remotely. We've been very lucky over the past year to year and a half to receive some laptop donations. So we were able to, our entire team, go remote. We're continuing to process youth in need of a mentor. So we are still intaking youth and doing interviews and everything via phone and other digital platforms. We're still processing volunteers. We are even doing our orientations, which used to be in person. We're now doing them via Zoom. So that took a little bit of a learning curve on the part of the team, but I think they're Zoom experts at this point. And then we actually, just this past week, we had our first two matches that were made online. For the first time in the history of our organization, this is our 50th anniversary. So we've never made matches online, which was pretty neat. If anybody follows us on social media, you can see our team did a Zoom crash where we all came in and held up congratulatory signs for the matches, which was pretty neat. And it was neat because we're not usually all at a match meeting like that. It's usually just the mentor, the mentee, the parent, and one staff member. We're going to do our first virtual event in June. That will be our Mentor 2.0 signing day and our Big Brothers Big Sisters of East Tennessee scholarship celebration. So we're going to celebrate a graduating class at South Doyle High School, and they're going to announce where they're going after high school. They're part of our Mentor 2.0 program, and then we'll give away some scholarships. You know, I'm actually thrilled about that event being online. It was going to be great in person, but now we can reach so many more people with it being online. And I think it'll be a really fitting celebration of those students who, you know, 4 years ago when they enrolled in our mentoring program through their school had most of them had, you know, were first generation college students who had no plans after high school. And now we're celebrating them going to TCAT or Pellissippi or UT or into the, you know, the armed services. So, you know, we're really thrilled about that. One other major change that we've made right now is what we do in terms of our outreach. So we have what we call match support, and that's where our team calls the big, the little, and the parent or guardian every month to see how things are going. And we've really changed those during the course of the pandemic to serve much more as wellness checks. And so what we're doing with those is connecting families with essential services like food, rent assistance, you know, behavioral health services. We've even seen a pretty big uptick in our families requesting educational opportunities. So, you know, a lot of our parents are concerned because their kids aren't in school. And so in providing resources to our mentors and in providing that match support, we're able to connect kids with learning opportunities. One thing that's been really interesting for us as well during this time is that we found in more than 80% of the cases, we're the first nonprofit organization to proactively reach out to the families we serve. So, you know, what we have found is that our services are more necessary than ever, and we're actually filling a gap that is not being filled right now. So it definitely helps our team. It's a tough time for everyone, both at work and personally, but it helps our team to know what a vital resource we're providing at Big Brothers Big Sisters. And it's been really neat to see that shift of how our team has sort of filled the void that many of these families are facing. One last anecdote I'll say is normally a match support call is pretty short. You know, it's sort of checking in on the match and making sure that things are going well. We also are doing a survey where it should be about a 5-minute survey, but so many people are feeling isolated right now that those 5-minute surveys are taking 30 minutes, which has been eye-opening for us, but also it makes us feel good that we're able to connect with those families in that way.
Well, it's one with you, both of you all dealing with young people, looking at the education gap. It's not so, it's less clear when everyone goes to school. But when you ask young people to work from home, that socioeconomic gap really shows how wide it is with the level of access that your socioeconomically disadvantaged young people have. And make no mistake about it, nonprofits need funds, right? So fundraising is a huge part of what you all do. And one of the interesting things about interviewing both of you all is we've got a national organization with, you know, probably hundreds of different chapters across America. And then we have a local organization who is a bootstrap startup, right? So Nicole, or Dr. Chandler, excuse me, let's hear from you a little bit in terms of from a fundraising standpoint. You know, what are some of the things that you all have right now that you're doing, or some things that you all have planned? Because in order to serve your young people and pay your staff and do the things that you all do, you need money. So what are you all doing to accommodate from a fundraising standpoint?
We are doing right now, so in order for us to provide meals at no cost to the families, we're relying solely on donor support for that. And so we have been very fortunate that we have been able to receive donations from funders and donors. In addition, we are working on grants all the time, and so we're doing some grant things. We had our thank you event in January, and so we were working on another event later in the fall, and so that will be postponed depending on when we're going to be able to reopen and what that will look like now. It may have to be a virtual event. We're not sure yet what that's going to look like. So just relying heavily on donors for donor support as well as grants.
Right.
Yeah, so we've been able to keep donors engaged in similar ways. I talked about those requests for referrals to things like food and rent assistance and things like that. We saw an increase in 6,000% in the first week of the pandemic in Knoxville. So we went from about an average of 5 requests for referrals to over 300 in 1 week. And so telling those stories to donors has been very important, and showing them this is the need and this is how we're, meeting that need. We also have been really focused on telling stories of the matches. So, we have some of our bigs and littles who are making masks, or, we had a big and a little who created little greeting cards that they sent to healthcare workers. So telling those stories so that donors can really see a face to the services that we're providing. The other thing we've done is identify the gaps. So we've actually had to cancel already one fundraising event, cancel/postpone, with more on the horizon. And so we have been very clear with the donors what gap we're facing. So Big Brothers Big Sisters, for instance, between now and the end of this fiscal year is facing about an $80,000 gap in funding. And that gap goes much larger when you look at now to the end of the calendar year. So we speak very clearly about that, and we've let our donors know that. And then the other big piece we've done in terms of keeping donors engaged is just being very communicative. So we've done phone calls, we've done regular email updates. I've mentioned social media a couple times, but we've directed them to social media. We've been very proactive on our social media channels to tell these stories, to tell our needs. So we'll continue to do that. And then one thing we're working on, which we haven't done yet, but we will be in the coming weeks, is more video communication. So videos of staff conducting those calls, direct videos from me talking to donors and supporters about what we're doing. So videos will sort of be the next step that we're going to take for engaging our donors.
So one of the, I think, to me anyway, oftentimes one of the forgotten segments of any nonprofit organization is actually the staff. So for the average donor, for the average community citizen, Big Brothers Big Sisters is Brent, and the Change Center is Dr. Chandler. So there's a lot of times, if you are just going to special events, if you just interact with you all, you might not get a chance to see your staff, who you all know are the most vital part of what you all do in terms of serving the people that you all work with. And so with a lot of people having, unfortunately, the companies have been forced to lay them off and or furlough them or cut hours or whatever it may be. I'd like to hear from both of you all, from a staff perspective, what you all have been able to do in order just to support your staff. And you don't have to go into any specific layoff numbers, but what have you all been able to do to keep them busy, maybe keep them having some type of work hours, or just to keep them engaged with your overall mission? Dr. Chandler, we'll start with you.
Right. So like you're saying, that our staff is the most vital part of what we do, and we couldn't do it without them. And so one of the things that that I've been able to do is, we're utilizing Zoom a lot, and connecting with our full-time staff, but also we're connecting with our team staff. And so doing phone calls with them and Zoom meetings with them, checking in with them, making sure to see how they're doing, how their family is doing, identifying if there are any needs, and if they are, what we can do to help support and mitigate what those needs are and get them resources. And so it's been heavily on, phone calls and Zoom, and when we can. So we're doing the feeding twice a week. So we're rotating our staff in to serve on those days, which gives us an opportunity to see them as well. So trying to just be very creative with, how we can meet them, see them, and also following the social distancing guidelines and rules of personal protective equipment and social, 6 feet apart. And so trying to navigate all those things to just, do essentially wellness checks with our staff.
That's got to be tough, because you see people that you're used to being close to and people that you're used to hugging and shaking hands, and now you see them as kind of like, hey.
It's difficult to not be able to hug them, for sure.
Yeah.
That's been very, very hard, very hard.
Britt, what about you all?
Yeah, I mean, we're a nonprofit who is really about connecting people together, and as such our team is very big on human connections and interaction. So that's been a pretty tough part for them. And we talk about isolation, but I think our team has felt isolated as well. And so we've really tried to up our number of check-ins. We moved our team meetings to weekly. We have little small program and team huddles regularly as well. We do a virtual team lunch now on Thursdays. I have open office hours on Fridays where people can just come and pepper me with questions. And it's been a really good interactive time that, honestly, I probably should have been doing all along. We're working on a team yoga where teams can kind of stretch and do that together. So that'll be coming soon. One of the biggest, maybe even changes, but things I've been focused on is just really clear communication. So what does our budget look like? What does our staffing look like? How do people's roles look? And I'm a planner. And normally I don't really communicate as much until I sort of know exactly what the plan is. But right now it's sort of like I'm letting the team know where we're at, when we're at it, so that they don't at all feel like information is being held from them, because no one likes to feel like they don't know all the information. But in a time like this that's so uncertain and where things are changing day to day, hour to hour, I think just clearly communicating, and really similar to what I mentioned with donors, just communicating with staff. I send a weekly update every Friday so that they know any changes, any decisions that have been made. So just upping that communication. I also just want to mention, with our volunteers that also support us, one big thing has been the connections with their littles. So they're used to seeing them in person. Well, a lot of our littles don't have access to internet and things like that. So one thing we're working on now to hopefully help with that is a drive-in Wi-Fi station at our building. So we're hoping to get that up and running in the next couple of weeks, and then moving all of our events that are usually in person to online. So we've got this thing called Craft Club where bigs and littles come together at our building and do crafts and other projects together, and we're moving that to an online space via YouTube. So just in some ways, I would say communicate has been the way we've treated things, both with our team and with our volunteers as well.
You kind of led me to the next question. So Dr. Chandler, I'll move it over to you in terms of your volunteers. Obviously, you've got yourself and you've got your staff, you've got your constituents, you've got your donors. Sometimes we forget about how important our volunteers are, though. Are you all still able to have things for your volunteers to do? I know earlier we talked about the Easter dinner, but have there been other opportunities for you all to engage and interact with them so far?
Yes, so we're utilizing volunteers to help us pack supplemental meals through our partnership with Great Schools Partnership and Second Harvest Food Bank. And so we're able to have volunteers to help us in those ways, to help us pack the bags. And so we have it set up on the rink at the Chang Center. So tables are all 6 feet apart both ways, and everyone's masked and gloved. But volunteers are able to sign up and come as they're able. We do and we pack about 850 bags a week, so they're able to come and help us. Volunteers are able to help us with that.
Awesome. And I'll stay with you, and this will be my next to last question. So it's funny to hear both of you all talk about things like wellness checks and open door policies on Fridays. And Brent, you made the comment, this is probably something that I should have been doing all along. And I think that for me, at least, I know that there have been 4 or 5 business tactics or practices that I probably should have been implementing before, and I've only done it since I've been kind of forced to. So I guess for you, Dr. Chandler, is there one or maybe 2 things that you can think of that you all have started doing that you could say, you know what, I think this is a really big opportunity for us moving forward, and I think we need to continue to do this in order to serve our young people better?
Yes, I think the way that we've been connecting with our young people and donors through our social media, and we've done a direct mailing during this time just to say, hey, this is what we're doing with some pictures and snapshots. But as Brent was sharing earlier about the frequency of communication, I think is where we have seen something that we probably one should have been doing more of, but 2 need to keep doing that frequency of communication with donors and supporters and our families, to let them know, hey, this is what's going on, and reaching out to say, how can we support you? What do you need from us at this time? And so I think the frequency of communication and how we're communicating what we're doing through our social media platforms and direct mailings and things like that. But I would say for sure the frequency of communication.
Okay, awesome. Brent, what about you?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I have, or will, we'll definitely put into place moving forward is just this has been a good reminder that having a clearly articulated mission is so important, because immediately when things like this happen, you can immediately communicate what your value proposition is, and that's been what we've been very focused on. This is what service we're providing, and this is why we are so necessary right now. And sort of with that, having a really clear communication plan. So we already had that, and through this crisis, we've made sure that we've followed it very carefully and that we've stuck to the message. I think that's been really important. I think the pandemic and this situation has also reminded me that, and reminded our team, and is an opportunity going forward, that even though we're nonprofits and we don't have the budget or the staff of for-profits, we can still be innovative. We can still be forward-thinking. We can still do things in new and different ways. I think as nonprofits, a lot of times you can say, well, we don't have the funding for that. Well, you don't always have to have the funding to be innovative and forward-thinking. And this has forced our team to do that, and that has been one of the most refreshing parts of this. If we're looking for the silver linings, I think we've been able to be very forward thinking and to focus on what matters the most.
Well, it's interesting that you hear that. I think many people agree with this. Most innovative things come when you don't have any funding, when you don't have any resources. If that weren't true, the phrase, "oh, they're just throwing money at the problem," would never have come about, because the answer would always be, "oh, if you throw money at the problem, you can solve it." But we all know that that's not necessarily the case.
Hey, don't get me wrong. I'll take some money to throw at problems right now if anybody's got it.
So the very last thing before I let you all get back to your respective busy days is just advice out there for other nonprofit directors. I can see and imagine that this would probably be a lonely time. Being in leadership can be very lonely. It can be very challenging. So Dr. Chandler, what advice do you have, if any, for other nonprofit leaders out there that they might be able to use during this difficult time, and as we move into the next phase where businesses are starting to reopen?
Absolutely. 3 things I want to share. One is to, take care of your people. Take care of your staff, check on them, talking with them, seeing how you can support them during this time, and how their families are doing. Sometimes we get busy with the work, but really making sure we're taking time to check in and really see the wellness of our staff and how they're doing. I would also add to that to really lean into your board. Our board of directors has been very supportive, very engaged, and helpful with providing suggestions and ideas and during this time. And then the third thing I would say is to practice self-care. As we have been safer at home and working from home, I am doing almost triple the amount of screen time with Zoom and meetings and emails. And so being intentional about, getting up and moving and taking walks and getting fresh air, setting boundaries for home and workspace and hours is crucial. Making sure that you have that set time for, okay, when I'm here from this time to this time, I'm doing work, and then, close down the computer, let your official work day end, so that you are really intentional about those work-home boundaries and hours.
So can you repeat those very quickly, because those were excellent. One that I heard, I think I remember 2 of them. One of them that we didn't talk about today was lean into your board. Obviously, you just finished up with self-care. Good night. And then I sounded like Charles Barkley last night on The Last Stand. He was trying to word that was too big for him, just couldn't get it out. But I'm worse, because I was just trying to say self. And then what was the first one?
Taking care of your people, checking in with your staff, and making sure that they are really well beyond the work of the organization, but really checking in with them about themselves and their families, and what's going on with them during this time, things they may be experiencing and feeling
Those are three great pieces of advice. Great pieces. And then Brent, what about you?
I don't know what this says about Nicole and me, but our answer to this was almost exactly the same. I know Nicole's brilliant, so this makes me feel a little bit better about myself. But I will agree with what she said. I think that first thing I'd say to anybody leading a nonprofit, keep up the good work, because you are. I know everyone in this field is busting their butt right now. The other things, I mean, really, I literally had almost the same list in front of me, but I would say self-care is super important. Make sure you're taking care of yourself, because to take care of other people, to take care of your team, you have to make sure that you are filling up your cup and that you're resting and relaxing. One thing during this that I've tried to do every day is go for a run, just so I'm getting that time to take care of myself. And then the other thing that is not repetitive of what Dr. Chandler said, because I do think the leaning in on the board is super important and the team part is super important as well, is I read something about setting up a routine and how important that is. And I think that goes to what Dr. Chandler was saying as well. It keeps you from going insane during this time. So setting up a routine has been really important for me and has really helped me make it through. And to Dr. Chandler's point, it keeps you from working. It keeps you within some boundaries, which I think is really important right now. So I think setting up a routine would be the other thing I'd sort of reiterate.
Awesome. Well, you all have given some great insight in terms of what we can do, the things that we can think about, giving out great overviews of your organization and what you all want to do. But one other thing before we leave, is there anything that you all would like to tell the people about your organization from an event or fundraising perspective that they need to keep their eyes and ears open for coming in the near future? I'll be remiss if I didn't allow you all that opportunity. So Dr. Chandler, you first. Anything that people need to keep their eyes and ears open for the Chain Center?
Absolutely. So as we are considering and looking at when we will be able to reopen, that will be a huge event for us. So be on the lookout for that. It'll kind of be a relaunch of sorts, if you will. And so it'll look different. It will look different. And so, but we want to certainly celebrate being able to see our young people and our families and the community back in the space. And so as we're gearing up for that, be on the lookout for what that will look like, and know that it will be different. Normal as we know it will never be the same. And so moving forward, we'll have to consider all the recommendations of CDC, state and local government as we're moving forward through the other side of this pandemic.
Okay, awesome. And Brent?
Yeah, I think one event that I would plug is the one I talked about earlier. So we're going to do a signing day and scholarship celebration with some graduating seniors, and that's on June 11th. At 2:30 p.m. So be on the lookout for that information. We really want to have a lot of people tune in to celebrate these kids who have worked so hard and who didn't exactly get the senior year they had planned for. The other thing I'd say to people is, of course, donations are important, but they're important to all nonprofits and local businesses. What I'd say though is you can still volunteer through Big Brothers Big Sisters during this time in a safe way as well. So we're still looking for mentors who can volunteer online and virtually until they can get together in person with their mentees again. And we also have on our website, TennesseeBig.org, a full list of different ways that people can volunteer with us, from remotely from at home. So definitely check that out, and I would encourage people to come join us. Right now, we need more volunteers than we probably ever had.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you all so very much for taking time out of your extremely busy days to let us know what's going on with two phenomenal organizations here in the city that are both truly making a tremendous impact on the young people of our community and creating a better world for tomorrow. So thank you all again, and we look forward to seeing you all. Hopefully the next time we'll be in person, and we wish you all the very best in all that you do. Thank you so much.
Thank you.